After watching this video, you will have a much greater understanding about why your child struggles, especially if they don't look like they're struggling, meaning they're angry or they say that they're fine, or you clearly see that they're not aware that they're struggling. After watching this video, I'm going to share some basic concepts about why people struggle, and especially why young people struggle. Specifically so that you can make choices in your parenting and that how you can relate to them can shift to create more understanding and compassion. Okay, let's start with a quick story. I worked with this young man a few years ago, and he was treating his family terribly. He would yell at his younger siblings. He was always angry at his parents. He was not doing that great in school. He had a good friend group, seemingly. He was starting to abuse cannabis. He was drinking a bit. He was partying a bit. And he was just kind of an awful person to be around for the family. I mean, a sweet, awesome kid at his core, but over the last year, he had just really started having an impact significantly on the family to the point that they didn't know what to do. They would try talking to him. They tried, kind of grounding him and giving him certain restrictions so that maybe he would perform better or behave differently. They'd had him see a therapist, which kind of helped, but not really, because he kept going back to being angry and angry and angry. And clearly he was sad, and sometimes when he was really inebriated, he would just break down in tears. So you could clearly tell that there was something going on, but no one could really get to the root of it, right? So here's an example where what was really going on with this kid? Why was he struggling? Let's zoom out for a minute, and I'll come back to this as an example. Every struggle is an expression of an external and or internal challenge. Remember this. Every struggle is an expression of an internal or an external challenge. Now, ultimately, it's all an internal challenge because we've all heard amazing stories of great leaders on the planet who have experienced extreme conditions, extreme challenges in the external world, like concentration camps or torture or abuse or all the terrible things that humans can do to each other. And they found their own way to navigate that internally. Meaning they let that get to them in a way, but they successfully navigated it emotionally such that they became great leaders and great humans because of that. Now, that's an extraordinary thing to do, something that I have not done in my life, even though I'm a happy person and I've had my own external and internal challenges. But this is the point of this is that every struggle is really an expression of an internal challenge. Sometimes the external challenges are so significant that they create an internal challenge, right? An emotional challenge for us. Now, the anatomy of suffering has two origin points that I have found. Now, my experience comes from being 23 years as a clinician, working with young people and families in crisis. So I've had a lot of experience working with people who really, really struggle. And then I've had a lot of experience of them getting better under my and our care, the team that I was working with for many of those years. And I'm also a practicing monk. I've been a celibate monk for about 8 years, and I've been on a spiritual path for about 17 years. So I've done a lot of my own internal work. I also offer workshops, and as a team, we offer transformational workshops and meditation workshops. So all of my experience comes from this, I would say, very holistic, both psychological and perhaps you could say spiritual lens. Yeah. So here are the two origin points of suffering: the past and the power that we give beliefs. That's it. Everything for that involves suffering comes from the past and the power that we give beliefs. If we look at how we're suffering in the moment, or how a young person is suffering in the moment, it's because of the meaning that they give that experience, right? And secondly, how we navigate a level of pain that we're experiencing in that moment. Here's an example, just to play this out a little bit more. Well, let's say, Jonathan, what happens if I stub my toe? I'm suffering then. Okay, that's physical pain, clearly. And I'm not asking, I'll come back to this example too. When you stub your toe, you're not asking somebody how they feel. You're saying, are you okay, right? Physical pain is a degree of suffering that one can navigate with an emotional component that we sometimes overlay over physical pain, right? So I'm not talking about physical pain here, but emotional suffering. It comes from the past and the power that we give beliefs about the past, or the power that we give beliefs or experiences that we're having right now, the meaning that we're giving experiences right now and how they manifest in this moment. That's it. And once this is an advanced teaching that helps explain why people struggle, and I'll come back to the nitty gritty of it for you in a moment. But once we understand that and we address how all of our suffering comes from the past and the meaning and the power that we give beliefs based on that past and how they manifest in the moment, oh my gosh, your life is about to change. And there are lots of organizations and people that teach you how to do this. Okay. So let's come back to your situation or a situation that you know of in your life about how people are suffering. Why do people act terribly? Period. Well, people act terribly, question mark. People act terribly because they're feeling terrible. You know, one of the insights I discovered through all that work and tens of thousands of hours of working with young people is that the angrier people are, the more they hate themselves. It's a perfect correlation. The most angry and defiant and oppositional young people I worked with ultimately hated themselves the most. Isn't that interesting? People who are angry hate themselves. Again, I've never seen an exception. It's possible that it exists somewhere in the infinite possibilities of humanity that exist, but I've never seen that exist. So if your young person is angry, being disrespectful or being oppositional or defiant, consider how much they might be hating themselves. Now, this is not an excuse. I will say this many times, but mental health issues are not an excuse for how people show up in their lives, but it is a very critical, important reason that has us soften to their condition, right? Now, again, they need to be held accountable, and I don't mean like punished, but like held accountable in terms of the impact that their anger might have on the relationship. But if we relate to angry people who have a negative impact on us as just awful people, then we run the risk of justifying for ourselves why we do that to somebody else. Maybe not, but we run the risk of that. I know certainly that's happened in my life. Just the other day, I was driving down the road here, and this guy got very angry at me because I didn't see him. I was going straight and he was turning left and I didn't see his blinker. And I thought he was doing something else. And I kind of pulled out a little bit because I misread the situation. And he turned left and he just was like, and I just kind of like smiled at him. I was like, huh. And then I like reflected and I got to tell you, I was pissed. I got really angry. I was trying to be like a pleasant kind of happy monk and like let it just shake off my back, but it didn't. I got really pissed. And it was a great reminder of me of how anger begets anger. You know, his anger triggered my own anger inside of me. And I was kind of like thinking to myself, like, what a dick. You know, I didn't say that, obviously. Boy, I'm sharing a lot here with you today. But I did. I felt that way, right? And so whenever I share things like this with you in the future, you person who are watching this video to get some insight on why people struggle, why your young people struggle, I apply this for myself. All that to say, angry people hate themselves. And unfortunately, I think a lot of angry people, older people especially, but young people are not aware that it comes from anger towards themselves. It's getting expressed out in the world. It's like their emotional bucket is too full and it just starts spilling out into the world around them, right? So again, it's not an excuse for them to behave however they want, but it's a really important reason that helps us understand where their behavior is coming from. What is it an expression of, right? Another point that I want to leave you with. The first one was angry people hate themselves. The second one, suffering breeds selfishness. Suffering also breeds self-absorption. Let's go back to my stubbing your toe example. When a person stubs their toe or bangs their thumb with a hammer, I don't know who does carpentry so much these days. But it hurts themselves. They're not thinking about other people. They're not thinking about the state of the world. They're not thinking about their family. Think of this when you're navigating how your young person walks through their life. And when you expect them to understand the impact that they're having on their family or on their siblings or on their own life, in some ways, we can't even expect them to understand because their suffering is so great. Again, not an excuse, but it helps us understand why they're acting the way they are. Suffering breeds selfishness, right? So what you got it. Those are the two really important points. There's a few other points they sprinkled in there. What do? Well, if you understand this and you start talking to people like therapists or teachers or coaches or people in their lives or in your lives, they will help you with your unique situation. Generally, this is what you need to understand right now, is if they're angry, they hate themselves. If they're really depressed, they probably hate themselves. I don't see this exact same correlation with that, but usually suffering involves hating themselves, right? So if you can orient to them of how much self-deprecation there is happening inside of them, even if they're really like confident, cocky people, I gotta tell you, like those people don't like who they are either. I've met a couple people, but not many. 99.9% of people don't like innately who they are, nor do they accept themselves, nor do they love themselves. I personally think it's a pandemic of humanity that if that got addressed in a meaningful way, the world might be enlightened. And I mean that literally. So all that to say, what do? Orient to them with a degree of compassion. I don't mean not holding structure for them, or if they're being angry, telling them that is not okay to share that way. But this goes back to one of my fundamental teachings for you as a parent, how you share and what you say, how you say it, how you are is the most important thing you can do as a parent. Quick example. Your young person is really angry and being disrespectful. Hey, you cannot act like that. What's wrong with you? How could you do that? You can't talk to anybody like that. How could you treat your sister like that? You are, in that example, I'm pissed, I'm angry, I'm accusatory. In some ways, it's understandable because if this young person is dramatically impacting the well-being of the family and these people that I care about in this little role play, then you could say that it's understandable and even like, why would I act any other way? Versus, here's a more compassion-informed way of being that I'm going to act out. This isn't, I don't know if I would actually ever do this, but let's give it a shot. This is not okay. It is not okay for you to act this way, and I know that you're struggling. I know this is hard, and I know this is really, really awful for you. And it's not okay to talk to your sister like that. It's not okay to talk to me like that. If you need to take space, take space. And I'm saying this and I'm being really firm with you because, God, I love you, right? So there's my best way of doing that. I don't know that I would actually say that in the moment, but that was my way of being connected and being powerful. You can do this as a parent. You can be powerful and not angry. You can be powerful and understanding and compassionate. Compassion isn't like a little, delicate flower that exists on a mountaintop somewhere. Compassion can be a strong rain in a storm, right? In this kind of metaphor. So that's what you can do. Let this inform how you are and what you say. You need to hold boundaries. You need to say strong things that have them wake up to the impact that they're having on other people in their lives and their own lives, okay? All right, if you enjoyed this, give a little thumbs up and subscribe if you want more content to this, and leave a comment. I love hearing from you. And again, all my best with you. God, I think of you every day in these videos, you future person, and all my best.